We are Modern CPA. Our purpose is to provide valuable information to small business owners. On our podcast, Profit Points, we discuss business how-tos, give tax tips, and dig into real-life experiences in the crazy world of running your own business. If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Hi, everyone. We're Modern CPA, and this is our podcast, Profit Points, where we talk to small business owners and professionals about what they see in the business world. And our goal is to help people get savvy about how to start and run their business. Thank you for joining us today, and we're going to talk about items to consider for 2022. So welcome, Sean. Sean is one of the partners with Modern CPA, and we like to provide this valuable information to our community.
Hi, everyone.
So for 2022, now that we're starting this year out, I think it's a good time to set some goals, right, for what's going to happen in the upcoming year.
Yeah, I mean, as a business, you want to have benchmarks and goals that you want to strive for the upcoming year. What are some of the types of goals you think businesses should be looking at, considering?
Yeah, so everyone, when they think of goals, most people tend to think of money goals or revenue goals, which obviously are very important. But there's other types of goals that go hand in hand with that. And that could be things like gross profit percentage. So how much are you taking home or putting in your pocket once the cost of creating that revenue is paid for? Things like non-financial, such as your people. How many people do you have on staff, and are they operating efficiently? Some other goals may be customer retention or and attrition rates. Sales goals. Sales goals may be the process in which the sales team is operating. None of these have to really do with the true financial numbers, but obviously impact finances drastically when done appropriately.
Yeah, I think, all of those types of goals, at the end of the day affect the bottom line and your profitability or lack of profitability if you're not, working those goals and identifying them and trying to improve in different areas of your business.
Yeah. So one of the things for, goal setting 101 is set the goal, right? It needs to be identified, right? You need to know exactly what the goal is going to be and being able to measure that goal. So what are the measurements that are going to be in place for you to hold yourself accountable to reaching those goals? And let's just say you may not reach every goal, but it's better than not reaching it at all because you haven't set any measurements in place. So, getting them some sort of measurement in place on those goals is going to be really key for the upcoming year.
Yeah, and I think also in line with that is not overwhelming yourself in your business with all of these goals. It's great to have these benchmarks, but if you have 20 goals in your business, you're gonna just be spending all your time just kind of going back through all of these things time after time, and you're not really focusing on the important ones and really honing in on those few goals that you really want to strive for.
Yeah,
so I think taking ranking them in kind of order of importance, and then just focusing on a few of them at a time.
Exactly. That, I always suggest to people when I do our growth planning sessions with them is identify 3, maybe 4 top priority goals that will have a big impact on the company. And you would be surprised, sometimes the goals, even if they seem like they're doable, you must make sure that that you can measure that, and the small impacts can equate to very large outcomes later on down the line. So what seems like maybe a very big goal can be tackled with small incremental changes.
Yeah, exactly. And, then depending on the goal, it may not be something that's an ongoing, thing that you continue to measure, and it may be something that's done in a short period of time to implement, and then you can kind of, once that's in place, then you can kind of go back to your set of goals, and then go to something else. So
right. So definitely that leads to like setting the goal, achieving it, going on to something else, is the time set aside to review them ongoing, right? Tracking that progress and communicating among your team when appropriate. So you may have a sales goal that your whole sales team is really focused on, and maybe your executive team also is in the loop on that, but the sales team is really going to drive that and is going to take ownership of it. And that communication with that team and making them feel like they're a part of all of that decision making, and potentially, providing some sort of benefit to them for participating is really helpful in that whole goal setting, achieving, and moving on to the next goal, right, process.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're using your staff, your employees, providing some sort of benefit for achieving those goals, something that they can strive for, as whether it's bonuses or gifts, or some sort of recognition for achieving those goals, really boosts morale and helps get staff buy-in to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
And you may have to also reach out to third parties who are necessary to help with these goals, or assuming maybe you use an outside advertising company or whatever, and part of it is one of your goals is in that realm, so communicating that with those parties as well, not just your internal staff.
Yeah, that's a good point, that it doesn't necessarily mean just people that are working for you. And we could have small business owners that they're basically the only people working in their company. It doesn't mean you can't have goals, because you still have some outside help, right? In most cases, you have some external group or person that helps you with things, and they are a part of your team. So the communication where necessary, even though they're not on your payroll per se, they may be an independent contractor, is still very important to keep them in the loop on the goals and where you want it to track, and the progress of that.
Yeah, exactly. And tracking progress, may require you setting up some sort of processes or technology to help you, track that progress.
It might be too complicated. You need to, bring in the help of something else to help you with the tracking.
Yeah, exactly. And having those processes, getting those set up, will help you make it easier for you to track that progress over the time period that you're looking at. And then throughout the year, going through and reviewing the progress, and making the necessary changes and adjustments. You may have set a goal that is pretty lofty, and during the year you're not seeing, you're not hitting those marks to get you to that goal. So you may need to make adjustments. Maybe it's even dialing back that goal number, or doing other things to
Yeah,
accelerate.
it could be identifying what the holdup is, and what can be tweaked in order to try and reach the goal, or at least move the needle in the right direction going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just because you set up the goal and you start setting up, the processes and all that stuff, doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You need to be able to be flexible to make the necessary adjustments.
So once we've set up these goals and we've set up these processes, our idea is that you're going to have a change in your financial numbers, potentially, depending on the true outcome. But the next step would be maybe setting up that budget for 2022 and incorporating the outcome of what some of those goals will do for your bottom line into those numbers, and will allow you an opportunity to see how you're meeting or exceeding the budgeted numbers based on those new goals.
Yeah, exactly. And those goals, there may be an expense related to that, or a cost where you may, potentially have to go out and get funding for it, or, tap into, your cash reserves. So
yeah, especially if you're reinvesting into the company and trying to get into a growth pattern.
Exactly. So, when you're setting up your budget, a lot of times you kind of look at last year and, tweak the numbers to say, okay, this is what I did last year, so I'm going to budget for next year the same thing. Well, you're going to have to look at it a little bit differently with these goals in mind, and where these costs are going to be. And we're in a period right now of inflation, and costs from 2 years ago are not what they are today. So you need to take a good look at what your budget numbers are. And not just, carbon copy from the last year.
Yeah. Really take a look at what some of that is. And I think it's a great exercise anyway, because it gives you an opportunity, or makes you take an opportunity to really look at some of your expenses and see if there's ways of cost cutting to help increase that bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you're going through the budget, it's, you're looking at these different line items and seeing ways to improve those numbers. And
So I guess another thing outside of goal setting, there's a couple other things that come to mind in looking at a new year. And one of those things is your contracts and agreements that you have outstanding. What, in your mind, Sean, what are some of the examples of these types of contracts, agreements that should be looked at?
So, there's in contracts, you probably have agreements with customers, vendors, employment contracts. So, it's a good time to, kind of review all those things, especially if when you're mixing in some of these goals, perhaps there's, changes in how much you're charging your ongoing customers. Maybe there's, there's different terms you want to have with customers or vendors. So reviewing these items, talking with your attorney in the best way to make these changes in the contracts, getting them set up and reviewed and adjusted. And you may not have had some of these contracts in place before, but now you need those created to kind of solidify those relationships.
Right.
Some other documents, maybe you're wanting to implement a retirement plan, so you need to have a retirement plan document put in place. Other, insurance agreements, reviewing those and having those put in place. Your employee manual, reviewing that and seeing if there's anything that needs to be adjusted and changed in that.
Yeah, updated. Yeah, one other one might be also merchant services, taking a look at your agreement with your merchant service provider and whether or not that still makes sense. If there's been any changes to that, meaning fee increases, monthly costs that maybe they didn't fully tell you about or slipped under the radar in the past.
Yeah.
It's a good time to review that as well.
Yeah, and some of that stuff you may have identified while you're going through your goals and your budget, and with those adjustments and pieces, there's the back end documentation and that need to be adjusted. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So then the next thing that comes to mind is employees. You're starting off a new year. Many people review their employees on an annual basis, which they probably should be doing. And now may be a great time to begin that process of, staff evaluations or performance reviews or hourly or salary rate increases or identifying potential bonuses for the year, depending on maybe some of the goals that are set. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, going back through and identifying when was the last time you've done performance evaluations for your employees. Generally, you should do it the same time of the year every year. Some companies do it multiple times a year, so like every 6 months or quarterly reviews. So making sure that you have that in place and identifying the appropriate time to do that as well, because some businesses are seasonal, or you may you may do those performance evaluations after a busy time versus during the middle of busy time. But maybe that's more appropriate for your business. So just identifying when to do them and making sure you're doing them regularly.
Yeah. And I think it's an opportunity too to see what help you have for the upcoming year, and what are their levels and where are their holes really too. It's like maybe you've seen a massive amount of growth and you have a whole department that needs extra help now because of those things that have changed. When you're in the middle of it, it's very difficult to fill those spots. But if you have an opportunity to say, okay, well, we're expecting a certain growth in this maybe niche area because that was part of our goals for the upcoming year. What does that look like as far as how our staff, right? Will we need to hire somebody now because we are niching in this particular area and we need more help, that we're going to see this exponential growth because of it. It's a good time to review that.
Yeah, these evaluations shouldn't be one-sided. You should also be getting feedback from your employees as well as to how they self-evaluate their performance and what their goals are. So you can find out a lot of really interesting and important information by offering them the ability to kind of provide that information to you. You may find somebody that's really interested in a particular aspect of the business that currently isn't working in that, and give them an opportunity to delve into something else. Especially if they're a really good performing employee, you want to give them every opportunity to try different things and succeed.
And grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of employees that are leaving companies now, and offering opportunities for your employees to have more input and insight into the company really goes towards employee morale
and stability of the turnover of the employees, as well as the stability of the company, because you may not be able to run the whole company yourself. So these people, the people that you have on your team are important. So
exactly,
taking the time to hear them.
And it takes a lot of time and cost to hire and train new employees. And
yes,
the more you can keep good employees, it's the better. It better helps your bottom line at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the last things that comes to mind is our customers, and touching base with them. Now that the holiday season is over, when is a good time to do that with customers? Figuring out and identifying, customer surveys or customer feedback, whether that be ongoing throughout, the year, or is it, one time that, there's a customer feedback period, that, something like that. So, any thoughts on the customer aspect?
Yeah, I mean, just getting some sort of feedback of their experience with working with you, and how you're performing, delivering on your customer expectations. It's always important to understand what their experience is like, and making sure that you're knocking it out of the park with your customers. You want those repeat customers. You want them to keep coming back. You want them to refer you. So getting feedback on their experiences is important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, do you have any other items that you think that would be, we probably could talk about this all day, really. I mean, there's so many avenues, and, but, we want to keep it short for time's sake. Any other ideas that you have?
Just, the things that we talked about, spending some of that time on this is all part of working your business in the best possible way, not just consumed with delivering whatever your product or service is,
or being in the business of, you're working on the business at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And these are all the things that help you grow and succeed. So it's important to take the time to do these to do these things.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to talk today about these things, and we thank you, the community, for joining us today on Profit Points, and we look forward to the next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media.